What is up, everybody, and welcome to another ShawnSetGO video. Today, of course, talking about War Within, but this is more of a, I'd say, an opinions type of piece. It's this question, which comes up frequently, which is, if you like the War Within, what are your reasons? Now, before we get into it, I want to say thanks again for watching the videos as per usual. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers, but if you haven't already, give the video a like if you like it, subscribe to the page while you're at it, but let's jump into the video right now. Before I jump into this post, is that I think that this is of course always a subjective thing. These kind of posts, in my opinion, I'm not the biggest fan of them, because what it does is it just goes, basically, if if you like it like me, repeat the things that I like as well. So I thought I would kind of go through and find some of the most pressing things for people who may be not liking the War Within. So kind of like to combat this a little bit, but let's start out with their post. It says, here are my things I don't like, or that I like about the War Within. I don't feel forced to do any content. Having a blast, progressing Mythic Plus as Blood DK. I don't feel locked into a particular tune. The ability to switch freely between content. I started off just doing solo grind, switched to Mythic Plus, had no trouble finding groups and starting progression. Switch to account-wide progression is great. I'm actually looking forward to progressing other tunes. I can play 30-40 minutes a night and finish dungeons to make progress. I don't think I've ever been able to play 30 to 40 minutes a night and feel like I made progress. Now, this is definitely, if I were to say like what kind of take this is, this feels very much like a an altaholic type of take, you know, like where it's like you're happy with being able to do a little bit and get quite a bit out of it. Personally, I think there's nothing wrong with this. I think if the content that you enjoy doing is just kind of making things a little bit better bit by bit, I think there is room for that. And I think that the game itself does have a good degree of that, and like Warbound stuff, you know, if you do enjoy alts. Me personally, I'm not really an alt type of character. I play the one character I enjoy playing. I may make an alt at some point in the expansion, but it'll only be if I'm bored doing the content that I'm doing with my main. And when you're playing tank, to be honest, there's always a challenge ahead of you, and there's always something that you can like stop doing because you just don't feel like doing it anymore. So that for me is not really my bag, but I don't think there's anything wrong with this per se. But let's look at some of the comments. So all the Warbound stuff is insane. A quality of life improvement it's a massive win. Yeah, no, I think that honestly, I think the only thing I would think beats it personally is when they implemented leveling gear, and they did that. Like having that when it initially came out was huge, and totally changed the leveling game for sure. But the Warbound is actually a nice concept. I kind of prefer Warbound to leveling gear nowadays, just because there's so many different routes to get bonus XP anyways. And then additionally, when it comes to like upgrading your leveling gear, it kind of becomes more of a hassle than it's worth. So yeah, having Warbound stuff, it's just like, okay, I have gear ready for my next tune. It's actually pretty nice in general. Being an enhancement shaman, yeah, that's all you have to say. You know, shaman's got it good pretty much. Maybe druid would be on the opposite end of that. Account rep progression is a game changer. Yeah, I think that's totally, yeah, it's like in general, having things across your warband is pretty nice. Delves for me, so you'll see this a lot. And people will say a lot of time to play. The ability to gear up as a solo player on my own is so nice. The delves could be improved on, but I'm impressed with how much they've done out of the gate. I do think that it's a good foundation, but I don't think that delves are perfect. And I don't think that the improvements that we're going to see with delves are exactly what we're looking for. Because right now, because I wanted to see for myself, I wanted to check and truly see, are delves, like, is me doing delves as they're intended, playing solo content, the reason why? And turns out, yes, it's delves. The only reason I haven't been enjoying them in general is just because I've been doing them solo, and relying on Bran and doing those things is actually a huge burden. And so delves are much more enjoyable whenever you do them in a group, just because they go like this. And you're able to progress through those so much more quickly. And I think this is more of a flaw with Bran and how he functions. He often is bugged. Sometimes I'll enter in and Bran is a neutral mob that I can attack, and then sometimes as well I'll go into it and he's like off in the distance healing nonsense, or additionally a dino is spawned and the dino's doing nothing, he's doing nothing. So it's kind of weird. I think that the NPC is definitely has its benefits, but if you need a healer, you would much rather pick a healer over Bran, and if you need a DPS, you would much rather pick a DPS over Bran. So is it always necessary? Not necessarily, but for smooth and easy gameplay, yeah, for sure. So I mean, it's kind of counterproductive that the best way to play Delves is really in a 5-man group, and it kind of beats that a little bit. But I do agree that it can be solo content, and there's a lot of people who get like value out of it. I mean, look at these comments. Look, Delves allow me to play mostly solo. Delves gearing seems smoother. I can gear up without needing to find a toxic group. Full stop. Yeah, but I mean, like I said, like the most enjoyable way to play Delves is in a 5-man group, and you would have the most like room temperature IQ type of people in there. They're very nice. Like there's nothing. Like, they're very kind people for the most part, but sometimes, man, it's like, come on, like, have you ever played the game? Like sometimes it's very difficult playing these in the group, and that you could call that me being toxic, but like it just like sometimes doing these Delves solo, it can be such a slog because like they have so much health. I did one, is it Kriegsval's Rest? It's the one with the candle, and like within the first area, I'm dropping the candle right where I'm supposed to, and people are running off, or people are running through the fire. I'm like, you can stand out of the candle for a second, it's okay. And then people try to reset like almost the whole way through, and I'm like, oh my god, guys, just stop. So a lot of people, it gets very irritating. It gets extremely irritating, but I'm not toxic. I promise. I don't leave groups. I'm very kind, and I'll finish it. Like at this point, I'm not getting anything from Delves other than vault completion, really. So it's not like I'm getting a whole bunch from it, but man, oh man, it's a bit rough. So let's move to the second part of the video, which is well, let's talk about the people who maybe aren't having a good time. And if you're sitting at this point and you got something loaded up, drop it in the comments for me. What is the thing you're not particularly liking, or what's something that everyone likes that you're kind of not feeling right now? So just let me know right in the comments, and maybe we'll make a video on it, and I'll talk about a bit more in depth. I'm going to talk more about the things that came up for me when I took a look at this. So first thing that came up, it says, hey, other classes, can you rival this end of the tree passive that Hunter has? Moment of opportunity. When a trap triggers, you gain 30% movement speed for 3 seconds. Can only occur every 1 minute. So this was something that I talked about early in my initial reviews of the game. It was one, there are a few classes that really just sit at the bottom of the rankings. And now there's not a whole bunch of difference between someone who's like, say, the top of the rankings and like second and third, but definitely between the top and the bottom, there's definitely a lot of gaps, and Hunter is definitely going through a lot of those gaps, definitely on the low end of that experience. But something like this, I think, is an issue with the talent trees right now. At best, right now, we didn't get anything from talent trees from the War Within. We, at best, got a bunch of passives. And so it's kind of tough to say that really this expansion has a lot of unique, interesting things. It's more of just like a lot of modifications. In the end, it feels a bit better because when you play the game, you feel like the abilities have been a bit more tempered. And so it feels a little bit more balanced in a way, but in the end, you don't feel like you've gotten anything super new. You didn't get a Titan's grip, you know, like you didn't get holding two-handers, you know, it's nothing that substantial. First comment says that's a vanilla survival level talent. It's 2005 PvP Hunter build just dropped. Yeah, the 1 minute cooldown is ridiculous, by the way. Yeah, Jesus, someone at Blizzard actually thought this was good, and it's an end game ability. Yeah, so the talent trees, I would say this is not for everybody maybe, but I think everyone can at least relate to having talents like this that sit near or close to the bottom of that tree, and you're just like, what is this for? Like, who is this for? Like, what is this providing for me? So yeah, no, that is kind of sad. It is kind of unfortunate. Some of those abilities just don't turn out, but I mean, it happens again with Hunter. Is Hunter's Mark a bad joke? As a Hunter main, I'm starting to wonder if Hunter's Mark is just a cruel design prank. The spell, even though recently introduced as a raid buff, feels outdated and underwhelming, especially with current raid and Mythic Plus content. Here's a breakdown. Single target. Hunter's Mark can only target one enemy, and it only boosts damage for the targets above 80% health. In Mythic Plus, it's usually drastically undermined. You can only mark one target per pull, and it feels terrible to start each dungeon pull spending a global cooldown. When doing Mythic Plus, I virtually only apply it to dungeon bosses. Raid boss limitations. Some bosses, like Rashanan, start with below 80%, meaning the buff is dead on arrival. Global cooldown tax. Hunter's Mark uses a global cooldown. It's mainly a problem in Mythic Plus, but also can be really annoying in raid scenarios when you have to spend the global cooldown to focus and add. Especially because like that first 20% is like usually lust. So it's super underutilized. At this point, I'm hoping Blizzard considers reworking or retiring it in the next patch, because as it stands, Hunter's Mark doesn't add meaningful value and feels more like a leftover from past expansions that then a viable tool for modern gameplay. No, I 100% feel this way. I do feel like Hunter's Mark is something that kept in the game because it does have significant meaning. However, I do think that this is a matter of just making it a simple applying more damage to your target. I mean, I think that's all it needs to be. I don't know why they put such limitations on this in such a way that it feels like it's so underutilized. I was surprised they never changed the spell in the latest changes to Hunter. Here's to hoping some Blizzard does something with the spell. Judging by the latest Hunter changes, they may not actually know it exists. Yeah, so Hunters, you got to speak out more about this. This is actually terrible. Why is it even on GCD? Yeah, I mean, this feels like something that shouldn't be on a global cooldown. This feels like something, honestly, I don't want to like give all the buffs to Hunters. You know, I've been in situations where I didn't like Hunters, but I've played a Hunter. This feels like something, honestly, that you should be able to apply automatically. And it's just, or basically, whenever you start a fight and like whoever you're focusing target on for more than say 5 seconds, it's applied to me. Like that's the way it feels. And so I honestly don't, it doesn't make sense, total amount of sense for it to be even something that you have to cast, because unless there's like some sort of extra benefit that you get from it, like say you have like an upgraded benefit through your talent trees. That's just the way it feels. So I play Warlock and I tell you, it would still be bad even if it wasn't on GCD. Yeah, I mean that first 20% just doesn't feel as impactful. What would be more impactful for me is if you have a weakened enemy, saying anything below 50%, maybe like 60%, 50 or 60%, just to make it to where basically this enemy is weakened. Just thinking about this from a lore perspective, by the way, not necessarily like a utility or like an actual like numbers perspective. The way I would think about it is if you're focusing on a mob and that mob is below 50%, you can apply this and basically it gets you over that hump, because usually the issue is about 50% of a mob's health. You're past lust stage and you're not into execute stage. The first 20 and the last 20 are usually like those last hurdles that are usually very doable. But that in the middle would be like that kind of stage where I think this would be the most useful. So if I were to say this would be modified in some sort of way, I would say that way would be kind of interesting. Let's move on to the next one. Blacksmithing, because I personally have a blacksmith character, but I know a lot of you have crafting characters. It feels like crafting is useless in general. Since Blizz added a vendor and profane tinderbox, all the crafts a blacksmith can do are now not worth it. Best craft we can do is Epic Ally for 1.5k, while the nullstone as an ingredient sits around 3k. Tier 3 bismuth is around 140g. Conclusion: blacksmithing is dead. Just farming raw ores and nullstones, selling them. I can't imagine this is just blacksmithing. That's why I say it's everybody. But the whole thing with profane tinderboxes, I was like, oh. At first, I thought it was great. I was like, oh, I have a bunch of these little items. I can exchange them for profane tinderboxes. Sure thing. I'll do this every single time. But no, I really get like 1 or 2 like out of luck in a week, and that's it. And so any of the crafting orders, like the patron crafting orders that I do, if it has anything that has to do with sanctified alloy or anything that requires me to produce profane tinderboxes or anything like that, or even null stones, it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And then using it even for myself, unless I use the highest tier items and I have it all maxed out in my talent trees, I'm not producing gear that I'm actually going to use at any point at all. So it's like, I'm not giving gear to other people. These items itself, they cost too much for me to purchase for them to be worth it. And then on top of that, this is my one personal grief, concentration just drains and then just doesn't come back whatsoever. So I can't even I can't even do blacksmithing. I sit on materials most of the time because my concentration is drained because I have to focus more on building experience or knowledge points more than I can actually crafting things for myself or for anybody else for that matter. And I'm not going to spam sitting in there and /2 like trying to spam for people for me to make items for them. It's just it's a waste of my time. It's an absolute waste of my time. So I think it's ridiculous the way it is right now. I think that like crafting should be in the best state it is right now, but the way it is anything that's of a high utilization, meaning a lot of people are using it. It's so expensive that it's not worth it to buy off of the auction house, even for the trade-off of getting knowledge points. And then the stuff that is worth getting to that degree, you end up not being able to use it until you're maxed out in your knowledge points anyway. So it's like you're kind of just sitting at a standstill until you basically go through and spend your, like, I'd say 20, 30K of your own money just getting materials to kind of like balance it out, because you could mine all day. You're still not going to have enough null stones. You're still not going to have enough profane tinderboxes, which, by the way, a lot of this stuff has to come from delves, and I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to do other content to do my content. It's ridiculous. Like, I kind of miss the days where there was items I had to get from other professions, you know, like that sucked in a way, because like you had to have multiple alts with multiple professions, but at least it was accessible. Like, this way just seems kind of ridiculous to me. But moving on to the next one of people who may not like these things, it says Resto Druid can't be that bad. After trying M+, I don't want to play with you anymore. I feel bad for Resto. I really do. Being a tank and tanking Mythic Plus, tanking heroic rating, I feel bad for Resto in that they do get a pretty bad rap, and they do have a pretty rough time. Now, a healer is a healer. You know, there's a limited amount, so I think most people will take a healer. But Resto Druids are going through right now, and I think Boomkins are going through it too right now, if I remember correctly. Healing is ridiculous in this expansion. I watched so much passive damage go out, and healers struggling to get everyone back up. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, the first solution or the first thing they go to is like, well, they just need to pop more defensives. It's like, well, you need to have enough utility to where that shouldn't be a problem. You know, like that also should be available to you. So it just doesn't seem like it's doable. They were supposed to make it so health pools were big enough so people wouldn't get chunked and healing would be more gradual. So much for that, I guess. Yeah, I still very much see people get chunked in their health. If you don't pop a defensive when you're supposed to, like, you could almost get one shot. And then, oh man, poor prop paladins. Like I see it every week that like there's people who are maximum cope that like paladins are in a great state. But then I see like one video and I'm like, okay, this is most of the paladins. It's not the other way around. Most paladins out there, especially prop paladins, are having to pregame most of their spells just to survive. So it's like that. This is more realistic, you know. It's kind of ridiculous. So let's look at more though. I rerolled Holy Paladin from Resto Druid. Haven't looked back. Yeah, I mean that just sounds like very doable. I think the 2 aura buffs over the last 2 weeks raw throughput is actually pretty solid. The problem is the ramp that is required to get to that point. Yeah, so it's just like with paladins. It's like you have to save your leftovers. You have to use before your encounters, and if you don't, you're kind of gonna be you're gonna have a bad time. So I think that's kind of the situation. I literally boosted a shaman because I can't handle how bad Resto Druid is at the moment. He's been my main forever, and I hate that I just can't be good with him now. That's unfortunate. That's sad. But moving on, talking about paladins, speaking of paladins, it says rerolling the paladin is going well. Immediately dead. Throws it out. Boom. Reminds me of Vengeance Demon Hunter and Ruby Life Pools. Oh my gosh. Dang, that's so fast. I know the exact gif you're saying. Yeah, I agree. It's too bad. The glowing corpse on the ground looks... Yeah, it just dies so quickly. That's so bad. That's too bad. Healer? Yeah. Question mark? Yeah. There's no way you could blame the healer in that situation. Like that's just too much. For me at least. That's way too much. Yeah. I'm sorry, this is funny to watch. Blizz definitely achieved their stated goal of tank damage intake should be steady and not too fast. This is the one thing I'm seeing a lot. Is that apparently they were saying, I don't know when they said this, but I mean, I think it was when they were trying to nerf tanks self-sustain. I think they said that the damage was going to be more like over time and less spiky, but this was like 20 videos ago. I can't remember when exactly they said this. One shot white swings and you wonder why there's a tank shortage. Yeah, I would say right now there's a lot of people who want to do tank, but they want to play suboptimal tanks. But I will tell you, tanks are weird. Let's tank ranking. We'll look at Mythic Plus. I don't know if it matters, but you'll look at, let's see. Let's look at 2 maybe so I can see the difference. It looks like Warrior's in a pretty good state, but I mean, like, even Warrior's not the best off, but I see so few Guardian Druids, and the one, why like, Paladins being at the top just feels like a damage thing to me. So like the rankings are always kind of like off, so it's hard for me to like read these and be like, all right, cool. Maybe raid would be different. So like raid, tank, rankings. Wow. Let's see. Yeah, see, like this is the one I was saying. So like for raiding, for example, Prot Warrior sits pretty low on the list, but any Prot Paladin I've seen, even ones that have a higher item level than me, they struggle to get through it. And then Guardian Druids are same way. I've seen a few good Guardian Druids, but most of them, they struggle to get through it. Same thing with Blood DK. So like, I don't want to be biased because I play Prot Warrior, but it doesn't, like, this doesn't feel like reality, at least to me, but that's too bad for Prot Paladin. That's a tough situation. Another week, a player leaves a Mythic raid pug. Thank you, Blizzard. Another week, a player on a group made a pug 4 bosses. A Mythic left on second boss. First 2 bosses one-shotted, successfully disbanding the group on its own, killing any chance for me to clear 4 bosses for the 3rd week in a row. This is happening a lot too. I mean, this is more of in regards to my previous video where we're talking about how there's a lot of people leaving and supposedly griefing Mythic groups. I would say the same thing happens in raids right now, where the moment that there is a small degree of strife, people leave. I was in a heroic Narubar Palace and we got up to Brood Twister. You guys know where it probably happened. But the moment there was one single wipe because people weren't positioning over the eggs and popping the eggs, it was done. We tried twice to full group and reform, but it kept on happening. The moment that anybody had to wait, the moment anybody didn't have a summon, the moment anybody was like, not going to do it. And the reason why is because whenever you're doing your lockouts, your vault slots are set to accommodate that point in the raid. So when people realize like, well, I've gotten everything that I need out of my vault, so I don't need to do more, they leave and they're done. And I mean, like, you could say it's my fault because I'm pugging through raids and stuff like that. I'm tanking raids through pugs just because I'm not tanking with a guild right now. But in the end all be all, it's like where's your patience? Set aside an hour or 2 out of the day. You know, like how can you like set yourself up for this and be like, I only got 30 minutes of time to do this, or I only got an hour. And the moment there's a bit of strife, then it's a waste of my time. So that's to me is my main thing in the game. I mean, beyond Klaus things, crafting things, delve things, Mythic Plus things, we've talked about them all. To me right now, my biggest like grief with why I'm disliking the War Within more than I should is just because you could say player behavior, but you could like, to me, it's more of once you get to a certain point with the system that like how WoW is set up is that people are rewarded for putting in the minimum effort so much that anything beyond minimum effort to people is just can't be bothered. So I don't know if things need to be more rewarded on the far end to kind of alleviate those things. But for me, that's been my biggest grief with it right now. That and crafting, like those are my top 2 for sure. But if, like I said earlier, you are going through some of the rough things in WoW, maybe even the things you like are having issues. Like even if you love delves, they're kind of buggy. So like there's got to be something that you're kind of not appreciating, not quite liking in WoW. And what do you think they should do to fix it? Let's talk about things to fix it. Maybe we'll put it in another video. But That's all I got for this one. As per usual, make sure you subscribe to the page if you haven't already. We do stream live on twitch.tv/ShawnSetGo. We're playing classic hardcore as well as doing raiding content live on stream. But until next time, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.